Call Scott Simpson.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much. Before I turn to address this Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Transition Provisions Amendment Bill first reading, I just seek the indulgence of the House for a moment to express my condolences and sympathies to the family of Dame Thea Muldoon. Sir, I had the great privilege and honour of having met Dame Thea on several occasions during the 80s when Sir Robert, her husband, was Prime Minister, in my capacity as an active and enthusiastic young national. And Sir, I always found her to be congenial, to be warm and very hospitable, generous with her time and enormously generous with her support for not only the National Party but for her husband and her family at a time, Sir, when being a Member of Parliament was a lot less family friendly than it is today. And so, Sir, I just want to acknowledge the contribution that she made in her own right to this country, to the democracy that we enjoy, and offer my sincere sympathies and condolences to her family.
Well said.
Sir, this Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Transitional Provisions Amendment Bill is a very small piece of legislation. It's an important piece of legislation, and it's a piece of amending legislation that, as the Minister who introduced the bill said, is one we would have preferred not to be doing. And the reason for that is because sometimes pragmatic decisions have to be made, and they have to be made in the better interests of the country, of commerce, of the environment, and indeed of our collective and mutual well-being. Sir, this bill will amend the Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Act 2012, and it goes to addressing some transitional issues that have been identified and that were not identified during the vigorous introductory stages at Select Committee and through the House in the course of the bill traversing through the House. And Sir, it relates to an application by Shell Todd Oil Services, who will be in breach of the requirements of the Act if they continue to operate without a marine consent after June 27 this year. And why is that date important, Sir? Well, it's important because if that business does have to cease operations, there will be significant loss not only to the economy of New Zealand but to energy consumers and indeed, of course, to the company. And so this amendment will allow existing operators who have applied for a marine consent to continue their operations until that application has been decided and until, most importantly, any subsequent appeals to that process have been decided. Now, Sir, appeals, as we know, in matters of this sort can be lengthy and protracted. Indeed, Sir, we had the Chief Executive and the Chair of the Environmental Protection Authority before the Local Government and Environment Select Committee just this very day. And the Chair, Kerry Prendergast, was at pains to point out in her presentation to the Select Committee that the bill is very much still in its transitional phase. It's still very much in a settling down phase, that we're in the early days of this very significant and important piece of legislation. And it's important because we have this big, large economic zone. Now, I listened carefully to Minister Upston during her introductory comments, and I noted that she made the very apt point that ours is one of the largest in the world in terms of our extended economic zone. We have a continental shelf that is probably about 21 times greater than our entire landmass, and the EEZ area covers more than 400 million hectares, while our extended continental shelf covers a further 170 million hectares. So this is an area that is vast, it's rich in resource, but there's an awful lot that's unknown yet about it. And that was another point that the Chair of the authority made at Select Committee today. There's an awful lot about our economic zone that we don't know yet about. we need to tread carefully, we need to be cautious, and we need to take the steps that are required to ensure good, stable and effective management of that economic zone, but also at the same time ensuring that the environment, that all that is there in terms of sea life and everything else that is part of that environment is protected and cared for and not abused in any way. And so it's important that we get this stuff right. It's important not just for those of us who are fortunate enough to be here as citizens of New Zealand today, but for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren yet born, because they will be the ones who inherit the benefits of our diligence and care in this area. The Minister made the point that there are 4 petroleum production operations currently operating within the economic zone off the coast of Taranaki. And I thought the point she made that they have been operating since the mid-1970s in an unregulated environment for almost all that time was particularly important. Because I suspect as this debate goes through, and probably as we go through a very diligent and careful analysis of this amendment in Select Committee, there will be those from the opposite side of the House who will criticise us for having the temerity to actually introduce legislation, to do something bold, to regulate and to be considering the future in a way that they simply did not during their time. We had 9 long years of a Labour Green government and they did absolutely nothing in this area, absolutely nothing. And so, sir, for them now to stand in this House and I suspect in Select Committee and criticise a government that has had the gumption and the foresight to make significant advances in this area, I think is something that they will need to consider for themselves. Sir, when an application for marine consent is made, it's a process that is quite a lengthy one, and so it should be. It's a process that is one that requires very careful diligence and investigation. And sir, the likelihood of the application that is currently being made by Shell Todd Oil Services being completed before the 27th of June this year without appeal is frankly remote. And so as a pragmatic and sensible and careful government, it's appropriate that we do move to resolve this issue. The bill won't change the current requirement for existing operators to transition into the EEZ Act regime through the marine consenting process. So there's no hint or suggestion that anything untoward is going to occur here or anything that will give the business some kind of unfair advantage or commercial benefit that goes beyond allowing them to simply continue to trade. The potential impact of a closure is likely to cause enormous negative impact to consumers, to New Zealand Incorporated and to the company. The current operators, sir, have applied for the marine consent before the expiry date, but we will be moving, I think, quite quickly, and hopefully I think it's the intention of the government to ensure that this amending legislation is completed before the 28th of June in order to allow production to continue. And so, sir, we simply as a nation and a parliament can't afford to allow a field that provides up to 20% of New Zealand's gas to have any uncertainty about its operation at all. Our natural environment, sir, is without doubt our greatest asset, and this is a government that believes successful economic and environmental policy can and indeed must go hand in hand. The oil and gas industry is a very vital part of the New Zealand economy, and oil, sir, is our 4th largest commodity export after dairy, meat and wood. And the oil and gas economy combined is worth around $2 billion of GDP. So, sir, this is an important but small piece of amending legislation. I, as Chair of the Local Government Environment Select Committee, give an undertaking to the House that this will be carefully and thoroughly scrutinised at Select Committee, and we are looking forward to our work ahead on that matter. I commend it to the House.
Mr. Chair. Call Stuart Nash.